But there's a guy in like a seemingly crack house, stash house, meth house, whatever. He's in the middle of a standoff with the feds, or the, what is it, the ATP? Yeah, the ATP, the Department of Government that doesn't want you to have fun at all because they watch over your use of tobacco and alcohol consumption. So with that, the COUGAR ops, the piece of ass he's been, railing for this long, up until episode 3 now, is involved. It's part of a line of duty as far as like trying to talk the guy out of the house so they can arrest him seemingly. But it's the middle of a standoff, so he's got his fucking AK-47, whatever he's got a hold of, cocked and ready to fucking let off with. But he's surrounded by dogs. As a dog person, growing up with a dog, I haven't had one for like 15 years, and putting him to sleep, that was hard enough to watch in itself, IRL in real life. Anything with dogs involved in like negligence or poor care kind of irks me a little bit. Not so much where I'm like, I have to cancel this whole show, cancel Tulsa King because it showed dogs in less than humane conditions in the stash house, wherever. No, none of that shit. It's a show. Obviously, it's not fucking real. But he's surrounded by like, at least it seems like 7-8 dogs. No collars, no nothing. So of course they're like going to shit, or they'll probably die under his watch anyway. And then they'll still have the nerve to be like, I'm a dog person, I love all my dogs. If they died, at least they died under a roof, not outside in the rain, the cold, the wind, tornadoes, because they're out in Oklahoma and shit. But he tells the cops basically, hey, I'm not coming out, but I am letting my dogs out, so don't shoot. Don't fucking be that big of an asshole where you're shooting dogs and shit. Well, honestly, in the condition that house is in, I think the dogs are better off getting shot at by the feds than living any longer with that guy under the same roof. But I digress, of course. That's dogs. I just don't like negligence towards dogs. Let's see. Again, he does have the heart to let them out, but shortly after, when he lets the dogs loose, he just blows the whole house up. So there was no point to him really. I'd say in that case, just blow yourself up with the dogs in the house. Fuck that, because it's not like they're gonna go to any place better unless they star in like one of those ASPCA Humane Society commercials with like the slow in the eyes of an angel and shit commercials. Maybe they got a chance. But there's so many dogs, like there's so many humans on the planet, I don't know where we're gonna fit everybody or every dog, every animal under one fucking roof. Woof. Everything's overpopulated at this point, except the money, because now inflation's a reality, and fucking Bank of America said, I think it was Bank of America, or was it Capital One? One of those said like, beware, by the way, there's a recession coming in 2023. So of course, whatever, because you're paying your taxes that really do a lot with your life, whatever. All right, so now we cut back to our boy Dwight, the main star of the show, Sylvester Stallone. Otherwise, if you're not familiar with the show yet, he's sitting out there minding his business, sipping on a cappuccino in the middle of the city. I'm assuming Tulsa, because of course Tulsa King, that's what it's fucking named. We see the white horse from the last episode, episode 2, where he saw the random white horse strolling on by when he was like at the center of the universe and like trying to figure out how that all works. It turns out the white horse not only has a name, but it's a real life thing. So it's not a fixation of his imagination as I thought, or maybe like some sort of symbolism, like his purity's escaping him, even though he already did like 25 years in jail, just got out and he's back like knee deep in the same old shit. They got him in trouble in the first place. But the horse is real. It's named Pilot, and it's like a fixture of the city as far as like even the barista girl, the girl serving him the coffee and shit. She's like, oh yeah, that's old Pilot. He just like roams around town freely. I think she said, I'm gonna assume Pilot has an owner. Pilot, of course, has an owner, but they don't like to keep him confined. So it's like a woke horse. Like, you can't put a saddle on me. I won't be, wrangled into my fence or where I'm supposed to be. So they let me out free. But hopefully the goddamn horse is on his best behavior, because if I see a horse shitting in the middle of the street where I have to, make my regular commute, work to home, school to home, whatever, and I gotta be swerving all over the road because there's a big white fucking horse and his big stupid ass blocking my way, or let alone his pile of shit stop me from going my regular route, every single chance I get, I'm gonna honk the shit out of my horn at the fucking horse and just scream out, "Get out the fucking road, mystery meat! Get out the road, Elmer's glue," or whatever. Just, what's the fucking point of having a horse loose in the city like that? I mean, I get it, it's Oklahoma. I haven't been there, so I don't know if that's something they actually do, or if they have like a rule where like a horse is like the king on the road, so you gotta stop like you do here, like, or anywhere else, where you gotta stop when like the school buses have like the stop signs like out there on the sides. Do you gotta do the same thing with the horses in town? Or can you actually, like, I don't know about love tap, but at least like honk the shit out of your horn at the horses? I don't know, but it turns out the horse is real. So there's fucking Oklahoma logic for you, I guess. Oklahoma traffic logic for you. Also, this episode is where our boy Tyson, the black dude that drives him around, his unofficial driver who's making like $2,000 cash a month. So again, I like doing the math on that, because imagine, look, $2,000 in cash a week he's getting, not a month, a week. So you times 2,000 by 4 weeks in a month, that's 8,000 a month. And then there's 12 months in a year. So you do the math. I hope I'm doing this right. 8 times 12. Wait a second. Oh shit, I might have did it wrong the other episode then. Oops. But wait, so 8 times 12 is, oh God. Should I do 12 times 8 or 8 times 12? 8 times 12 is 96. So imagine making $96,000 a year in cash off the books. You don't got to report a thing to the IRS. Even for 1 year, that's plenty fine for me. And all I got to do is risk my life potentially by driving around a capo all around town in a tricked out Navigator, brand new, fresh off the lot. I mean, and I get to keep the car when I'm not driving him around, because it doesn't seem like he needs to be everywhere every day. It seems like he needs to go to one spot, 2 spots, maybe let's say 3 or 4 at most per day. But you got to get out the car, open the door for him, and you're getting $2,000 a week cash. Not having to report that to the IRS, I can get a whole nother job at night. I don't know, I could be a stripper, I could be a bartender, something like that, and still not have nothing to report to IRS. And I might be able to claim Medicaid and shit on top of that too, and get away with all that shit, because God forbid you fucking don't pay taxes 1 year, or they accuse you of tax evasion or whatever, and then they're on your ass year 2. Because, I mean, look at Wesley Snipes, 2 years in of fucking tax evasion alleged, or no, he did go to jail for it, so they were on his ass right away. That's the thing, that's one of the 2 things in life they always say you can't get away with: tax evasion and or murder. I would think tax evasion above murder, because at least if you murder somebody, you could be like self-defense, I wasn't in the right state of mind, etc., etc. But with tax evasion, there really is no excuse. If you haven't been paying your taxes, the IRS does not forgive or give a shit, and they give no mercy to you. But we're not here to fucking talk about taxes, because we'll be haunted by that like 3 or 4 months down the road from here in April. Everybody's favorite fucking time of year, tax season. I get nothing. I barely make enough at work as is, but I get told by the government every time. I get spit in my face when it's time to file my taxes, like, you make a little too much to get anything in return, and on top of that, I owe money because I don't have kids, I'm single, so according to them, I'm just a fucking, I'm a field worker, basically. I'm holding myself up for the IRS at the end of the day. And mind you, every paycheck, they take enough out as is, so you got to deal with that. Sorry, back to the point at hand. So Tyson, he's got the nerve to actually not demand, but kind of really insist and persist with this whole thing of like, where do you see me in 5 years? What's my potential for growth in this current department and or position that I'm in? Basically saying I want to be down with the mob and everything too. I mean, he is going directly to the main source, which is Dwight in this case, a capo, even if he's a capo of Tulsa, Oklahoma, of all places. But he's demanding pretty much, hey, I want to be the capo. I want to be a black capo of anything. So, of course, Dwight has to break his heart, let him down easy, I hope, and say, well, obviously you're not Italian, so you can't be a capo. You could be, I think he said you could be a high-ranking capo, but you can't go past that per se. No, I think he said a high-level associate, but not a capo, because, of course, you're not Paisan. Nowhere near it. Later on in the episode, he references, of all things, Goodfellas. Rest in peace, Ray Liotta's character, as in he was playing Henry Hill, and he was like, oh yeah, but he was only half Italian and Irish, and he was still a capo. And then he reminds him, well, again, half Italian at least, and he wasn't like a boss, he was a high-ranking associate. I forget what Henry Hill was in Goodfellas. I forget if he was a capo or just like a really high-ranking associate, but he was in real deep with the mob per se. So you know Goodfellas, good ass fucking film. Might have to watch that again. It's one of those movies you end up missing, like if you don't watch it after a certain amount of time. Like, goddamn, I feel like Goodfellas right now, kind of like just watching that shit. That's just me though, of course. But he's got to be let down easily and reminded, of course, you're black, so you can't be a capo, for me at least, until you start, or unless you start your own fucking black mob or black mafia, and then you can be the boss of whoever you want. You know, find the black people scattered around in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and boss them around, and you're the fucking boss, capo, whatever you want to be, in your mind at least, of course. Not so much a main focus, but a big part of this episode is N2O, or nitrous oxide, which apparently is, I'm guessing, no offense of course, but if you're out in the middle of Oklahoma with nothing better to do than get high off of, I don't know, whatever's available, whatever you can huff and or sniff and or wolf down outside of beer and cheap weed, this apparently is a main go-to for like all the youth out there. I mean, besides the dispensaries being like free and open like that. But they're doing the thing with that shit they put in the fucking balloons, they fucking suck it back in. It's like $5 a pop. I don't fuck with that shit. I never would, just because I'm like drug free. I'm not like drug free is the way to be. I'm not a simp like that, but also I don't see the point in doing that. Like once in a while, maybe I'll take a pull or something. Maybe I'll even smoke a cig. Drinking, I do socially, and or after a long ass week, I got my cognac, my whiskey on hand, chilled in the fridge is where I keep it. I don't know if you should be keeping it in the fridge, but I just stick it in there because I like a cold beverage. I don't drink beer otherwise, so I hate beer. But I don't know what the point is of doing that shit, to be honest. I'm not trying to speak like holier than thou, like, oh, you did drugs, you're a fucking degenerate, whatever. No, it's just like, I don't get why you would do that. But again, that's whatever you choose to do. You're fucking ruining your own body, your own temple, if I was like 5% or whatever. But I don't get the fucking point of that. But, of course, our boy Dwight, who is, knee deep in the dirt like that, sees nothing but dollar signs behind it. So he does the math. He's like, okay, we got to get some tanks. We got to fucking pull up to the bar and then offer it to the fucking youth so that we can start making some money and shit. Bringing in even more, illicit, dirty money, of course, because he can't make no legal funds. He's got to make it all dirty and somehow launder it after the fact, too, even with the fucking dispensary available. So, also after that, there's a really good part that rings true, and no offense also to the college grads like myself. I only went to junior college, aka I got an associate's, but no offense to the bachelor degree holders, to the master degree holders, or whatever you might have. I think there's people now that, strut their fucking feathers, strut their stuff as far as like being proud of having 2 masters but still no fucking job. They do exist, but of course, whatever, we digress. No offense to the college grads, basically, but he does drop a truth bomb when he's talking to Tyson on his way to do his driving test for his license, which is, college is a scam. No offense to the professors, to the lecturers, to the students, to staff, whatever. And I'm not saying that either per se, but I do agree with that mentality. College ain't the end all be all. Now listen, I do have a degree, even if it's an associate's. And on top of that, it's an associate's for media studies / communications that I got way back in 2005 because I wanted to be involved in radio and or TV. Ideally, I was going to transfer over to a 4-year school, but my mom got sick, so I had to start taking care of her besides working full time, because if she don't work, then there's no money coming in. So then I had to start working full time. I had to set my shit aside. If not, I would have been in a 4-year school at some point, but that's besides the point, right? Whatever. He does drop a truth bomb, nuke, A-bomb, practically like a truth Chernobyl, basically about college. He says basically, Dwight of course, it's all about proving to an employer that you showed up somewhere every time, on time, for like a set amount of years, and which means you might just be reliable enough to not fuck up their business, basically. That's really what a degree is good for, and all it's worth, basically. Do I fully agree? Depending on the major, depending on what you study, the field you go into, yes. Unfortunately, I agree with that. Because it really is kind of just proof and or validation that you paid in advance for a piece of paper that has your name on it. You studied something specifically and committed to it for, let's say, 4 years. proof of it stamped by the, institution you went to, so that the employee can see, okay, reliable, knows this shit well enough. Okay, you're hired because I can trust you based off your qualifications. But then there comes the whole thing with like real life experience versus just book smarts. And sometimes the book smarts or the degree ain't enough to get you hired. You have to have some sort of work experience. Of course, that's when internships come into play, and or what's that thing called that doctors do? Like besides the internships, they got to do like actual shit for years, like work in the actual place for no pay, whatever. Kind of like a glorified internship. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, there is a lot of that going on. Is it fully a scam? I won't say that, because I had dreams of going to a 4-year and really advancing my career back when. I haven't gone back since, because, college ain't for free, for me at least. I don't qualify for any sort of assistance. I never did, and I still don't now, because according to them, I make too much money now with a full-time job. But I'm paying my bills, I'm paying my rent, then there's really nothing left over for school, and school ain't fucking cheap as is, when you gotta pay out of fucking pocket in full. But I digress. That's the whole point of college. It really does kind of make you think, like rethink the whole college scam, as a lot of people like to call it oftentimes. I would say scam is like a strong term to use, but depending on who you ask, some people transfer and or change majors all the time, like 2 years, 3 years into something deep, or even in my case, like associate degrees, like junior colleges and shit. I know too many people that make it to like 1-2 credits short of graduating and get it over with, and they just don't finish. They don't go back, and they just leave it as is. And I'm like, again, I'm not here to judge anybody and what they do. I mean, everybody's got different case scenarios or situations they got to go and deal with. But it does baffle me, like if you got 1-2 credits left, let's say even like 3 or 4 left, like maybe 2 classes or 1, depending on how many credits you got left to complete and graduate with, why not finish it as soon as you can? But again, I'm not here to judge. I was going to go to a 4-year, but I got sidetracked by, my mom's health, taking care of her, working full time, and I just never went back since. So it is what it is, of course. Oh yeah, so he makes it to his driving test, the road test at least now, because he had to cheat. Remember from the last episode, he had to cheat off of someone else's written exam to get the permit. So now it's the day of to take the driving test. He's doing really well. He does prove that he's been driving for a long ass time. It's just, jail got in the way of him advancing his driving career any further. But there's a point in the test where he's doing everything good, and the instructor tells him, okay, at this light, stop and make a right. But as he's following his instructions, Dwight takes his eyes off the road for like at least a good 10 seconds in a moving vehicle. I'm not one to judge, because I did get my license like only 3 years ago, as of right now, this episode. But even I got the feeling, and I was told when I was taking my tests, when I was taking my practice like classes and shit before the test, eyes on the fucking road, as you should have them when you're driving in real life out here in these streets, wherever you're fucking located. But this guy takes his eyes off the road in a moving vehicle to make eye contact, to be polite, I guess, in his mind with the instructor for like a good 10 seconds. I counted 10 Mississippi, and this motherfucker's just distracted trying to like figure out the color of the instructor's eyes and shit, making googly eyes at him practically. That's fucking dangerous. And I would think maybe if you do that unconsciously or just to be polite, making eye contact like that long with the instructor, they're going to either tell you, hey, eyes on the road or something, or if you're looking too long into the eyes or too deep and shouldn't being creepy, they might just automatically fail you because you're a risk to everybody else. That means you're going to definitely be one of those, which you shouldn't be fucking doing, assholes. Phone in your face while you're driving, which I've seen too many fucking times. Like, listen, if you're going to glance down your phone while you're driving because you got the maps going, or I don't know, you're trying to see, I don't know what time you're supposed to meet up with your side piece via text or whatever, because you don't have the fucking thing on the car speaker to read the text to you. Okay, maybe I get that, but at least you're glancing back and forth on the road, right? There are the people that fucking have AirPods on while they're driving. There's the people that fucking drive with their phone in their face and still moving the wheel somehow, some way. Not even like peeking through. They're like just straight full on looking at the phone. Or worse, they're looking down at the phone the whole time. And the most common thing now is they don't notice when the light changes, when they're free to go. It's just fucking crazy out there with a lot of drivers. Even in New York, we're supposed to be like best drivers because we drive in this insanity, this old fucking traffic we're always stuck into. I can't imagine if LA are worse or better drivers perhaps, but it's just a mess out here. And the way people get so easily distracted with some bullshit while driving, which you're not supposed to be. But whatever. That's dangerous enough. But he does prove, while he's driving and taking this test, at least he's got great reaction time, because as he pulls up to the light, after making eye contact with this guy for too long, there's someone that pulls up on the side of him in a Caprice, a Chevrolet Caprice to be more specific, with a ski mask on, starts popping off in a bop, 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 boom, 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 shooting him up. And before he lets off bullet number one, this guy in the ski mask in the car next to him, Dwight, Sylvester Stallone, grabs the driving instructor's head like he's going to force him to give him a blowjob to make him pass the test. Get down! Great reaction time. Saved this guy's life. And all the instructor's worried about is getting a little gash on his head because I think he like smacked it against the dashboard. Meanwhile, a tiny little gash on his forehead versus a whole bullet or 3 or 5, however many times he shot off, would have been even worse. But all he's thinking about is a tiny little gash on his fucking head, bleeding a little bit too. It looks like just, I don't know, he got too excited eating a Whopper and like some ketchup spurting on his forehead by mistake. But there's a whole chase scene that's really fucking good. Surprisingly good for a TV show, considering all these angles, swoop in, swoop out, wide angle, close up, catching the vehicles. My only question is, I'm not a big car guy, because obviously I don't have a car either. I know how to drive, I just don't have the car to do so. But for as long as I've known, Chevrolets, especially the Caprices, aren't really known for their speed, because they're wide, like big ass cars, like wide ass cars, better get said. So I would think that thing can't really haul ass per se or really get that fast, top notch speed per se. But this thing is gunning it the whole time and is outrunning the brand new Lincoln Navigator, which is at least, you know, modern, new-ish compared to the Caprice. It looks to be at least like 10 years old compared to the fucking Navigator, which is, of course, is probably Evo hybrid engine. Probably doesn't take up too much gas if it's like a half electric, half gas, whatever. But basically, it's a newer engine, newer technology, meaning, just taking a look at the dashboard, I would think this thing can like fucking take off real quick, as big as it is. Because big cars back then, around the time of the Chevy Caprice, weren't fast. They weren't known for that. Now these bigger cars, not all, but most of them, are a lot faster than they used to be, and are more capable of going faster than they've ever been known to be. So how is he not catching up that much quicker to the Caprice? I was kind of scratching my head during that one. But it's a really good fucking chase scene. The music choice is great too. I thought I could have sworn this song was a lot older than it is, but surprisingly it's only 2 years old, and it's by the band Idols, IDLES, called War. It's only from 2020, so it's like a fairly brand new track. I'm going to check out more of this shit, because this shit sounded like some early punk shit. I thought it was like a random pick from the 90s or something that like Stallone was in charge of picking, but this shit apparently, when I looked it up, was actually the promo music used for the Battlefield 2042 commercial for that game that like was supposed to be really good, but when it dropped it like turned out to be trash according to like most opinions and reviews. But really good fucking track, great choice. It's like hectic, it's all over the place just like this chase scene is. At some point he does catch up to the guy in the Caprice, he cuts him off, he fucking T-bones him. But I guess it is one of those old body Chevys where it just takes it, eats the whole impact, and still he's able to drive away this guy, the guy that was trying to kill our boy Dwight, and it's like nothing. Really funny part though is at the end of the chase basically is when he is able to escape Dwight. He peels off, the instructor is bleeding from the head. Dwight has nothing to write with, but he's always like on his toes with shit, like able to improvise at the drop of a dime. He starts taking blood from the guy's forehead and starts drawing out like the numbers and letters he got from the license plate. Half of it only is what he got, but he starts drawing out in blood on the windshield so he can remember this shit. You'll see why it comes into play later on. But that was, you know, practical use of blood, if anything, if not your own, your neighbor's. Why not? So he's taken down to the police station, he's getting interrogated, he's not answering nothing, he's not really arrested, he's just being detained, but he's not under arrest. He's able to leave on his own recognition if need be, but he doesn't do so. He just wants to fuck around with the cops like that. And then, of course, we get a visit from the COUGAR Ops, the ATF agent who is practically his girlfriend at this point, because not only is she keeping tabs on him, she's pretty much stalking him to know every move he makes. So of course she would know if he's down at the station. So she goes, she wears her fucking undercover, but I'm still cool and hip with the times detective best for him to show off her perky, stiffened nipples, which this girl's always walking around, this lady is always walking around with hard nipples. So of course they get hard around him because she loves the bad boy element, dangerous lifestyle he lives. Even though she's supposed to be on the right side of the law, she can't help but feel wrong and hot and bothered around him. So she visits him, they kind of rekindle the flame. He takes her out to dinner afterwards as a thank you, I guess, for showing her face and reminding him, oh yeah, you don't have to stay here, you're not arrested. So they leave, they go out to eat, and we get some insight on what happened during the first night of sex, which basically, I was thinking that, but I didn't say it here on that episode. He was a 1 minute man, it seems like, because she's like, oh, is this the makeup for the last time we saw each other, which was like so short and quick, but still good enough to remember kind of dick. So he's a 1 minute man at best. Missy Elliott shouts at her 1 minute man right here, which is Dwight, what's his name, Manfredi, right, Sylvester Stallone, in the TV show. I don't know about real life if Sylvester Stallone's a 1 minute man, but I would hope the Italian Stallion wouldn't I would hope the Italian Stallion is able to make a couple of gallops around the fucking track, a couple of laps, and not just like 1-2 step and bust. But yeah, takes her out to dinner. It turns out she's been in the field so long as a cop for the ATF, an agent at least, since 9/11. She says she was a hero back then, working in New York and everything. But of all things that causes her to freak out, not 9/11, having worked through it, it's of all things, if you remember, that plane that Sully flew into the fucking, the Hudson River, because the engine had failed. It was like in the middle of the city and they weren't going to be able to make it to LaGuardia, I think they were going to. So he took the fucking plane and flew it right onto the Hudson River. Not into the river, no one died, thank God, but he was able to navigate the plane to actually make a safe landing over the fucking water. It looked like he was skipping rocks almost, like fucking beautiful and shit. I still remember the fucking news that day when that happened. It was amazing to fucking see. But that freaked her out because according to her, that was like her 9/11 all over again. Apparently she freaked out and she was shipped out to Tulsa to, I guess, live out the rest of her career basically because she fucking broke. She thought it was 9/11 happening all over again with the sight of that plane about to fucking descend into the river basically. Again, very odd particular detail to pick out, but I wonder if that ever happened with anybody at all. Like someone worked during 9/11, they're there the whole time and they're able to live through that, but it's the sight of another plane touching down to the city, seemingly again 9/11 all over again, makes them lose their minds. Which, interesting to bring up. I'd love to meet somebody that maybe had that happen to them. Not so much to like make fun of him, but not that at all, but like very odd and peculiar thing to like go over. A lot of detail to that shit. So it turns out they must have had a really good fucking dinner menu at that place he chose, because I'm assuming he chose it for them, because they're sipping wine, they're eating, they're laughing, reminiscing on shit, whatever. And of course that leads to sex, because again, she's drunk, she's eating meat. I mean, she does make it clear she's eating the plants, but she's not a vegan, thank God. They're annoying enough. But they end up having sex, they cut back to the hotel room, they're fucking done after hanky-panky time. Maybe he lasted 2 minutes this time, or they were both so drunk they couldn't keep track of time as far as how long it took for him before he bust. And, you know, to say their goodbyes, I'll see you next time, whatever. Basically, unofficially boyfriend, girlfriend, even though both of them are so old, I think the term boyfriend, girlfriend should no longer apply. But that's just me, that's my opinion. After that, we cut back to Dwight checking back in with New York, with the family, over the phone to see if maybe they were the ones that tried to put the hit out on them, because it was a really sloppy job. And he's thinking, and rightfully so, it could have been the guy he knocked out in the first episode, one of the sons of the big boss, putting the hit out on him, even though the other older son told him, don't do shit, we'll just make him pay $100,000 for having broken your jaw, at least to cover the hospital bills or something like that too. but he's able to check in with them, and they swear up and down it wasn't them, which I think it really wasn't. It was just, it happens to be the guy that did try to take him out, happened to see him in the mall, if you remember from episode 1, and started asking, snooping around to see if that's really him, because he thought he saw a ghost from his fucking mafia past. Turns out it really is Dwight, so of course he's got a thing to fucking try to kill Dwight. So it's all him, nothing to do with the family. The family's actually innocent this time. Besides them being dicks towards him, they're not guilty of trying to kill him. And he says himself, listen, I'd be fucking stupid if I tried to kill you because you make too much money for me. You're a great earner. So, of course, that and how far back you go with my father, there's no way in hell I'm going to try to kill you. Then we cut to the girlfriend slash cougar slash the ops, the ATF agent. Apparently they're working with what's called a 1%er bike gang, because one of the guys pops in at the start of the episode to try to talk the guy that's like in the standoff with the cops out of the standoff, because it's not in his best interest, whatever, but then he fucking flees. He doesn't really want to do anything there, or he's like kind of cooperating but half-ass with the ATF agents. And I did some research because I wasn't familiar with that term, a 1%er bike gang, and it turns out it means the 1% of bikers that, now this is according to the internet, that willingly commit crimes because they feel like it. So 99% of the bikers out there now, the biker population, and shouts to all of them, I want a bike myself, but I might be too old and I can barely drive as is, so should I really be thinking about a bike at this point? Maybe I should get a car first. Come on, think. But apparently 99% of the bikers out there don't commit crimes. This guy is a 1%er bike gang dude, so he's out there amongst the 1% of bikers that really just want to stir shit up and cause all the trouble and just make turmoil for everybody. So he's a no good, basically. But that is according to the internet, though, not me saying that. So I don't want no bikers coming after me, or let alone revving their engines day and night outside of my fucking apartment just because they heard me potentially hating on them. I'm not. I'm just saying that's what the internet said, and this is the research I had to do to even figure out what a 1%er bike gang guy is. But after the accident, Dwight goes to visit the driving instructor. I forget his name, but he seems like a good guy. But basically, he's there to visit the guy in the hospital to shut him up, make sure he could buy his silence. He don't say nothing to the cops. He don't cooperate with the cops, nothing. And also, because he's there to pay him off, to be specific, in the amount of $10,000 cash to shut him up when it comes to the police. He says he knows nothing, but also so he can run the information down the DMV database to see if he has any hits on the partial plate numbers and letters that he gives him as well. Because of course he wrote the shit out in blood, so of course he's going to remember some numbers at least. He didn't get the full plate, but some of it too, so he gives him a job to do. Listen, if you're getting paid $10,000 cash that you don't have to report to nobody, and it's just there for you to pocket at the expense of having suffered, some bullets being fired in your direction and or like a little gash in your forehead because you hit the dashboard too hard, I'm fucking fine with that, because I'm hoping the hospital bill ain't too high. But then if no one has to know about you getting $10K off of that little incident having occurred, and I gotta owe you a favor like that, which is very minimal and trivial in comparison, I think I made out good. So let the insurance worry about fucking filing the claim. They can go, fuck themselves basically, because, Obamacare, it's such a fucking wonderful treat to have, and being forced into paying every fucking year, of course, right? Mind you, I work in healthcare, so believe me, I know what I'm talking about, and I know the woes that you might have to go through dealing with if you have to pay for your own insurance like I do. Believe me, I know. Last thing I want to fucking do is end up in a hospital. I'd rather fucking die, honestly, because of what I'm going to have to fucking owe. If I get shot at, if I take a bullet, if I break something, I got to spend more than a night in the hospital. No thanks. But, yeah, he basically plays the amnesia card, told to do so with the amount he's being paid for. I'm fucking playing along with it. I'm playing dumb, stupid, deaf, blind when the police come around, and I'm just fucking holding on tight to that fucking $10K in cash. I'll boof it if I have to, just to make sure no one touches a fucking dollar of what I just got paid for my silence and cooperation. It is the mob though, so best not to get in the way or on the bad side. Then we cut back to Tyson going to visit fucking Dwight at a nearby diner with the fucking navigator looking disgusting and beat up and full of bullet holes and shit. and still insisting on this goddamn capo thing. Let me be a black capo. Let me be a close associate. You know, I can move up the rankings. I'm good with my hands. You know, I'm black, so by default in Tulsa, Oklahoma, people are just naturally intimidated by me. You remember from episode 1 when I tried to go to the car dealer and they saw me flash a little bit of cash and they thought I was a crack dealer and kicked me out and threatened to call the cops on me. Come on, man, I'm good for it. Meanwhile, Dwight is paying him even more, probably like 2-3 weeks worth of pay, and calling it a severance package, basically telling him, okay, you're done because that could have been you in the car when I was getting shot at that time, and I don't need to put you at risk of possibly dying due to me and my lifestyle choice. But the kid is insistent. You got to give him some credit, though. He's like really persistent with that shit. Like, listen, I can be careful. I know how to fucking dodge bullets. I've seen The Matrix 1, 2, and 3. I know how to dodge and do bullet time, all that shit. I play Call of Duty enough to know how to do it too. He's like, all right, this is your fucking choice if you want to still stay in this line of work. He keeps him. But he says, all right, if you want to potentially be a capo, like a high-ranking executive member, you got to go down to the dealership. You got to get me a brand new car, but you got to go get it for free. So that's basically his test of like, okay, you're keeping a job, but not only that, you're going to have to teach yourself how to strong-arm somebody so that you know what it's like to be in the mob for real, for real. So apparently he's able to do it, and he does come back with an even more beautiful Lincoln. I mean, the Navigator they had at first, all black, murdered out, whatever, nice looking car. But shout out to fucking Lincoln, because I've been sleeping on Lincoln for the longest time. They made some like, you know, fairly decent looking, like luxury-esque looking vehicles for a long time. But the second car he rolls up in, this like burgundy wine color Aviator, apparently. Chef's kid. Oh my God, that's a beautiful fucking vehicle. Pull up in the Aviator. They're down to handle business. He gets the call back from the driving instructor after he is able to find a hit on the fucking plate. Tells him where it's at. Still on the fucking Caprice, but the guy had already fucking dumped it somewhere and tried to burn it, but it's still intact. It's just burned kind of on the inside. He goes rummaging around the fucking vehicle. He's able to find this like cloth. It's got these initials on it. They Google it and it turns out it belongs to some nearby ranch. So they go to check it out. They pull up. Well, he pulls up himself, Dwight, because he says, I got to do this alone. He pulls up. He pretends to be, of all things, a private investigator with his appearance and his fucking, you know, come on. He reeks of fucking mafia, mob, whatever. He goes in with fucking black leather gloves, still of all things, and glasses and shades on. You know, in the bright ass, you know, Oklahoma sun. I get it, but goddamn, like, could you look any more mob affiliated? Pulls up to the owner of the fucking ranch. She's like, yeah, if you're a private investigator, I'm a fucking astronaut, you goddamn paisan ass motherfucker. And says, no, you can't start asking people on my ranch while they're on duty if they had anything to do with this burnt up car you're trying to fucking investigate, Mr. Private Investigator. But so he is told basically to fuck off, get off the property. So instead he waits in the Aviator to see. Now I think this is where I got a little confused, because she says herself, I got like over 100 employees that I can vouch for while they're on the job. What they do outside of work, I don't know. I don't give a shit. That's your problem. But he knows to pinpoint who exactly to look for, and or I think he may have already saw the guy that knows he's in town. So he knew who to wait for this whole time. I don't know when that, honestly, maybe I didn't pay attention to that part, but maybe he like saw him already. But he knows who to follow, and he follows the guy all the way back to his house, to his driveway, pulls up. He's got the hammer on him, not on his person, but in the fucking, where you put your fucking Starbucks and your coffee and shit, right there, right, on the console. He's there ready to do fucking dirt if need be, take the guy out. But he pulls up and he sees that his son comes running out the house to greet him. Hey, Dad. Hey, boy. Whatever. Boom, boom, boom. Whatever, whatever. And they close out the episode with him contemplating, looking at the gat, looking at the situation at hand, ready to cock the hammer, but like kind of debating, should I do it now or should I wait? So now we got the suspense, the cliffhanger to lead us into the next episode. But that is episode 3 of Tulsa King, a recap of it, named Caprice this time around. Who has been watching live here on Instagram Live first and foremost? week later or so on Instagram, on YouTube, and or for your ears, of course, the audio version, which you can listen on any podcasting platform of your choice and or preference, which means me in your ears, in your holes, with consent, of course, because, you know, you looked me up, you fucking hopefully left a 5-star review, or at least you download the episode, save it for later, but then you can fill your ears with me and my fucking voice, my delightful sound, better yet said. But if we're going to give a rating and or score to this episode, again, 3rd episode in, I think it's 10 total, I might be mistaken. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying the show. Again, the chase scene was really like standout shit, especially like the cutting away, up close, wide shots, the action, the dialogue. This show still has a lot of great dialogue. This is besides the fact that Stallone is underrated as far as like performance-wise, because we know him to be the action guy, front and center, jumping out of burning buildings and like taking out helicopters like a pea shooter and just having an insane physique. Any excuse possible for him to take his shirt off, basically, even up until now. I'm surprised he hasn't taken his shirt off on this show, but then again, he is 75 legit in real life, so maybe he's not looking that great, or maybe great shape-wise, yes, but skin, 75-year-old skin, probably not. So he's probably doing us a favor. I don't know. I'm not trying to allude too much to that shit, but hopefully I can work with him someday, obviously what I'm saying. But also, I think I might have said it before, but shout-outs to him for actually resolving that potential divorce situation he was looking at. That got resolved. So like now they're back together. They called off the whole shit. So it's one big happy family again, which is really, you know, you got to applaud that. That's great. They were able to work out the details. Back to this thing. So review-wise, score-wise, I got to give this episode of Tulsa King out of a possible 2 ears. Well, they're staying up there. 2 ears full. 2 ears out of 2 ears. Really good. Chase scene, the dialogue. This guy Tyson trying to really insist and persist with being a capo, or at least a high-ranking executive partner to our fucking king of Tulsa here, Dwight Manfredi. Everything good. I mean, really short, tight episode this time around too. That helps a lot as far as like not too long, not too much going on, or not too much crammed into one episode. 40 minutes, it kind of flies on by. You don't even feel it when it's like almost at the end of the episode. And also a very good cliffhanger, which is surprising to see this early in the season for any show.
All right, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you.
All right.